This is not a new rumored deal. It's been going on for literally well over a decade now in terms of big cross-border deals. But the simple case remains that any big cross-border transaction among European banks still hasn't happened in the last 15 years since the crisis. So will it happen now? Yes, it's a possibility, but there's still a lot of hurdles left. In terms of will the German government allow them specifically, what it would flag is the German market is very different to all the other European markets. It's got a very big cooperative or mutual society. They've got the Sparkassen, the Landesbanks. So actually the private banks, Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank, are a much smaller part of the overall market. And therefore, could they take out the second biggest German bank? I think it is possible on that front.
Would it be a good deal for UniCredit? I guess what I'm asking is how good of a management team, how good of a franchise is UniCredit?
Well, is it a good deal? I mean, that will come down to the price. And one good thing about Commerzbank is pricing is at a very low level. Even after rallying 20% about today, it's still trading about half book value. In terms of what you get for it, yes, the earnings have been very, very weak for the last 15 years, one of the lowest return on equity of all banks in Europe, but they have increased massively with rate rises across Europe. But of course, the flip side to that, of course, is interest rates now going down. So the question becomes, what will happen to Commerzbank's earnings going forward? And frankly, they're probably going to be going down. And therefore, that's where the pressure on them will lie. So are they getting a good deal, or are they paying almost at the top in terms of their earning potential?
What company would that make UniCredit? Like, would this be a giant investment bank and a giant retail bank?
Well, they will become the third largest European bank if they did a deal in terms of a market cap basis. Obviously, Commerzbank is almost entirely now a retail and commercial bank. It sold all the investment banking operations it had after the financial crisis. So this is very much a case of expanding in terms of that retail commercial space. UniCredit have a big presence in Germany already through Hypervereinsbank. So one of the attractions to the deal for them would be combining that, say, Commerzbank and Hypervereins, and therefore trying to get the cost synergies out of them. But say it's very much on the commercial retail side rather than investment banking.
So, Philip, talk to us about, I mean, just the German banking market right now in general from a competitive landscape. Does there need to be consolidation?
Does say yes. I mean, it's probably the least consolidated market in Europe in terms of, as you said, you've got this huge number of cooperative banks, the Sparkassen, etc. So it is a very difficult and diluted market. But the fact is, Commerzbank itself has got a sub 10% market share. So even if UniCredit did buy it and combine Hypervereins with them, they're still probably just getting over about that 10% mark. So will it change the dial in Germany? Not at all, because we're only talking in a 30% subsector in terms of the private banks, with 70% or so of the market, is in this mutual side.
So you were talking earlier that this has been a rumor for 10 years. I remember talking about this at least 6+ years ago. Also, why do you think that now could be actually the moment?
Well, you asked also about what they get in terms of Commerzbank. We heard last night, actually, the CEO of Commerzbank said he will not renew his tenure, which expires at the end of next year. So that does open a hole at the top of the bank, which obviously be an attraction for them. So that's one potential way of doing it. Who would have bought Commerzbank given the excessive risks they had, say, 3-4 years ago, where we had, say, commercial real estate risks? We had the bank trading at 0.3 times book value. We had earnings are very, very low. So in a way, the risk has gone away a lot of Commerzbank simply because the earnings are much stronger now because of those rate rises. Also, the German German government took a big stake in the bank. So as they sell that further and further down, that's part of the way UniCredit built their stake today. That obviously becomes more and more attractive because it comes more into the private sector. So there are a number of small reasons why it could happen, but does it mean anything will happen? Then no.
Is this going to ignite maybe a little bit more discussion about more cross M&A trades, just broadly defined across Europe?
Without any doubt, it will trigger more M&A speculation today. And I think the fact that you said they build a 10% stake and yet the shares then rally 20% shows that the market doesn't think this is the end of the story. And there's going to be more of a deal and the potential bid for Commerzbank is possible. That said, why has there been no big M&A across the sector now for 15 years? And because a number of the regulatory hurdles remain. There's not a single rule book across Europe. Government interference, people don't want to leave their biggest banks and be taken over by a foreign institution, etc. All these hurdles, and nothing's actually changed on that front. That's all still the same today. So, no big deals have happened. Could this be the first? Yes, but it's by no means certain it will.
30 seconds. If the deal does happen, would the bank be able to lend more and do stuff?
I think I would have said yes 3 years ago, just because of the weaker financial position that Commerzbank was in. I think because of the rate hikes now, is in a much stronger position. It's got a surplus capital position itself. So there's no real barriers in terms of the supply side, their potential to lend more. What's restraining them from growing is actually more the weaker German economy. And we're hearing more about that over the press in the last few days. And that's what's been holding them back. And frankly, nothing changes with this UniCredit deal there. Those hurdles still remain. So no, I don't think this will really help in terms of the lending or the growth potential.